is the greatest contribution of Acharya Prafullo Chandra Ray, building a school of chemistry and building a school of physics. And it was because of that only that the British government, during the early part of 1940s, they decided to start or initiate a large number of projects, out of which one of the important things was the development of CSIR laboratories, the development of IITs, because these were all people think that they were developed or they were started after the independence, which is not true. It was all the British government, and they were compelled to start, because during the initial period, the British people were not very keen to initiate any kind of research organization in India. But by the time the Second World War started, they could feel that here in India we had galaxy of people in diverse spectrum of physics, chemistry, and also in mathematics, without which a country cannot do anything. So they changed their decision, and one after another the commissions were set up, and which finally resulted in the development of IITs, CSIR labs, and obviously I must say that even institutions like TIFR and all. So Acharya Prafullo Chandra Ray, he also had written a large number of books, and as you know that his book on history of Hindu chemistry, that is one of the major books which will be remembered by everybody. And such an elaborate history of Hindu chemistry means that from those Vedic or pre-Vedic era, this had never been attempted in this country, and that was a very voluminous thing. And because of the fact that in many places he had talked about the casteism system in India, so there were some kind of controversies on those kind of pages. But then the unabridged version of the history of Hindu chemistry, that really gives you a marvelous vision towards the entire process of evolution of science and technology, and especially chemical sciences in India. And to talk about Acharya Prafullo Chandra Ray, in his memory, today we have got Professor Chen, who is an internationally renowned expert in diverse areas. He is a very good friend of Professor Shophosati Sarkar, our distinguished professor in this institution. And Professor Chen, he will be talking today on one of the most important areas. And although I am a non-expert, absolutely light year away from chemistry, but the prospects of hydrogen economy, that is really very challenging. And learning from microbes to develop new catalysts and materials. Because after all, in 21st century, we have to learn a lot from the living beings. And learning from microbes will be a fantastic, and will be a very interesting topic. I will not take any more time. I would now request Professor Sarkar to kindly introduce Professor Sunny Chen to the audience. Thank you very much.
Professor Ray, Professor Chen, and my young friends. It gives me great pleasure to invite Professor Chen here for this lecture. A little bit of brief of Professor Chen, because people would be knowing that they will be interested to know about him. Whatever I know, to make the story short, he is a born American of Chinese origin. He did his BS, bachelor's, from University of California, Berkeley. And if I am not wrong, probably he did his bachelor's in chemical engineering. And then he did PhD from the same institute, University of California, Berkeley. Did his postdoc at Harvard University, but the subject he changed. now it is physics. And then he moved to, throughout his career, mostly he served Caltech. So these are the three universities that his entire academic period that rest on. He did enormous amount of work pertaining to a newer emerging field of physical interface with inorganic chemistry, and that's normally popularly call it as bioinorganic chemistry, where I feel and then I know that you should be aware of the entire chemistry, including physics and a lot of biology, to do this type of chemistry. He guided 100 PhD students, and as for, that people, they talk about roots, and if I'm not wrong, the Taiwan government asked him at the end of his career, why not to come here and try to help us? So he graciously had been there now. So he is now in dual role. He was sometimes in the United States, but mostly he wanted to stay in Taiwan and trying to promote Taiwan Academy of Science. And one can make it just like in Indian way, that he is Vishnu Pitama, that's the great grandfather, old grandfather of Taiwan Academy of Science. And so he did a lot of work on this from ab initio, right from the beginning. The subject is not that straightforward. But when we are talking about that, previously we used to do only science. Science means that something what try to unravel the things happening in nature. That's it. But the technology comes, that means it's something to be deliverable. So now we are now side-conned in that way that now the society, the government, the people, by and large, they are not interested anymore that you do science only. You have to do something where that can benefit directly people. So where that is the handshaking of science and technology. And Professor Chen rightly doing those things, and where to learn from nature, where the most primitive form of nature in that way, that's microbe. Whether these are they are the first life that is emerged on this earth, not with a good background, not with a very coveted place to live, not a very good environment to live, a very primitive way of living, but plain living and high thinking. So they were very plainly, they lived and they produced some of these interesting molecules which we depend too much. We want those. And I am sure that Professor Chen will be highlighting those things. And a couple of times I asked him, he said no, he won't be doing some of the intriguing things, only basic chemistry, but could be understood to a general audience like this. Professor Chen, please.
Very much. The director is gone to another meeting, I'm sure. Words touch me very much because he obviously believes in education just as I do and have been for 50 years or more. I often tell people that I am first and foremost an educator. I believe in training young people. That's always been my first love. That's why I have more than 100 PhDs. Second of all, I do science. I do science for fun, but also a way to train students. It's a very good way to train students, to get them excited about science. So thank you very much, and thank you, Sakar, for your kind words. It was a pleasure for me to give a lecture. And second of all, I should tell you, now that Dr. Sakar is sitting down, that the purpose of my coming to Calcutta is to, the purpose of me coming to Calcutta is to visit Dr. Sakar. He sent me a very good PhD student for my postdoc, and I thought, as an educator, I always should, thank, the professor of my postdoc. And so this is a pilgrimage to Calcutta to pay my respects to the Professor Sakar. And along the way, you will hear what this postdoc of mine, Dr. Sakar student, Suma Banchi, had done for me, taught me. In addition, I've had a number of postdocs from India who's actually contributed to this success of my project. And so you, those of you who are sitting here, you're all from India, I assume, right? Should be proud that you have trained students who have done so well. And as a tribute or thanks to my postdocs and students, both of my students, 3 of them, I've actually assigned a sizable share of the patent, all right, to them. All right, when they came, they have to work for a poor man like me who could pay them very poor wages, and hopefully the success of their science will eventually, it gets converted to technology, will bring them big, all right, dollars, all right. But I warned them that when I assign these royalties to them, that don't let the money corrupt you, all right. It's very easy, all right, to be corrupted by money, but use your money to train students. So with that, thank you, Professor Sakar, for having me here. It's wonderful to see so many of you here. All right, the title of my, thank you very much for your kind words, and your remarks touched me very much because I'm very much an educator myself. All right, that's one of the most important missions of a professor. All right, okay, so thank you very much. The title of my talk is Prospects of a Methanol Hydrogen Economy, Learning from Microbes to Develop a New Catalyst of Materials. I'm giving a general talk so you all could understand what I'm trying to do. You have to believe me, I did the experiments correctly, interpreted the data correctly. They were done by your colleagues anyway, Indian postdocs anyway, so you have to trust them, right? Because they were taught by someone who's good. Okay, the first question I would ask is the hydrogen economy coming? For the last 2 decades or so, we've been hearing a lot of talk, all right, that the hydrogen will replace petroleum as a fuel and an energy source. This is a big thing in the U.S., all right, for the last 20 or 30 years. And of course, hydrogen is in principle plentiful and renewable, and could be a very cheap source of cheap fuel. Hydrogen is a clean